A middle-aged woman suddenly discovers that the husband she once trusted without question is behaving intimately with a young black woman. This instantly makes her feel a wave of nausea deep inside. When she returns home and faces her husband calmly reading the newspaper, she can no longer suppress the turmoil in her heart. She urgently asks who that woman is and how long they have been together. However, unlike most men burdened by guilt in marriage who hide behind excuses and lies, the husband chooses to confess everything to her honestly. This scene comes from the once wildly popular romantic classic Love in the Time of Cholera, yet it was once labeled as improper by the public, because the story digs deeply into the innocence of first love, the bitterness of secret longing, the wild abandon of passionate romance, and the pain that follows heartbreak. But behind all these stories, everything begins with a faded old photograph. Her name is Mina, an 18-year-old girl with a pair of captivating almond-shaped eyes, and Ariza, about the same age as her, is a diligent telegraph operator in the town. Two people who should have had nothing to do with each other unexpectedly cross paths on a street corner, but it is the girl's casual glance back that feels like destiny's arrangement, pushing Ariza to devote himself to a love that will last a lifetime. From youthful days to fading old age, this unwavering devotion is deeply moving. That night, overwhelmed with excitement, he rushes home clutching his violin and joyfully tells his mother that he has found the most important thing in his life. Unable to contain himself, he pours his heart onto the page and writes 57 pages of love letters. The next day, Ariza returns to that familiar street corner, where the two unexpectedly meet again. He cannot control his excitement and personally places 56 pages of love poems into Mina's hands. On his way back, Ariza runs while vomiting uncontrollably. After returning home, he curls up in his mother's arms like a lost child, causing her to mistakenly believe he has contracted cholera. But no one knows that this is simply the emotional shock triggered by a boy expressing his love for the first time. Soon, on a gloomy rainy day, Ariza receives a hurried woman at his workplace, who turns out to be Mina's aunt. Yet she leaves without saying much. Feeling uneasy, Ariza rushes outside, only to discover a reply letter about Mina lying on the ground. As joy floods his heart uncontrollably, he begins a long correspondence with Mina through letters. In every heartfelt letter, Ariza encloses a strand of his own hair, and Mina deeply absorbs the scent that belongs to him, so much so that even while reading in class, her mind is filled with Ariza's unique presence. Finally, on a quiet and tranquil night, Ariza slips into Mina's courtyard, and under the glow of moonlight, he plays the violin with profound emotion. Mina watches him silently from upstairs, and at this moment, their hearts feel closer than ever. Suddenly, Ariza clenches his fist against his chest and confesses to the girl with deep emotion, "Please believe me, this is not a fleeting impulse or simple physical attraction. From the moment I first saw you, I have felt as if I were stricken with cholera, tormented and unable to find peace. So I beg you, will you give me a chance to be healed?" Faced with this unexpected confession, Mina appears somewhat flustered and overwhelmed. Although she longs for love just as deeply, she remains hesitant for now. Even the aunt standing nearby is moved by Ariza's persistence and urgently hopes that Mina will accept this hard-won love. "If you do not accept it now, you may regret it for the rest of your life." She urges Mina that it is time to act on love at least once. Finally, under her aunt's hopeful gaze, Mina accepts Ariza's confession, but puts forward a slightly childish condition.
"Yes, very well. I will marry you. If you promise not to make me eat eggplant."
Before long, when Mina's wealthy merchant father learns that Ariza is merely a telegraph operator, he looks upon this vastly unequal romance with deep disapproval. When he further discovers Ariza's humble origins, he decisively sends the aunt who helped bring them together back to her hometown in South Africa. He then seeks out Ariza, attempting to use both reason and emotion to persuade him to abandon the relationship. However, love between the young is always filled with impulse and madness. Ariza asks the man to shoot him, because he believes dying for love is the highest honor. After returning home, the father angrily announces that he will send his daughter away as well. Despite Mina's fierce resistance, her father's resolute attitude leaves her with no choice. Before leaving, she cuts off a lock of her long hair and asks a servant to deliver it to Ariza as a keepsake. But just as the carriage is about to depart, Ariza learns the news and desperately chases after his beloved, even leaping onto the carriage in a reckless attempt. Before he can say a single word, he is brutally shoved off by the girl's father. On the crowded road, dust whipped up by the raging wind blinds the eyes of the two lovers, yet their hard-won love is not extinguished. After Mina endures countless hardships and returns to her hometown, she receives a telegram from Ariza, Filled between the lines with longing and concern, the scene shifts to a dim and noisy brothel, where Ariza is consumed by his obsession with Mina. No matter how many women approach him with desire, he clings to his belief and resolves to preserve his pure body for Mina. Whenever he has a moment of leisure, he goes to a park bench and carves marks that belong to their love. Time flies, and the years flow like a song. As autumn leaves cover the ground, the once youthful and innocent Ariza begins to show the weathered marks of longing on his face. Yet his love for Mina never changes. Gazing at the vast sea, he wonders when the woman he loves on the distant shore will finally return. One day at last, the courtyard that had been silent for years comes back to life. Ariza looks at that figure that is both unfamiliar and familiar, and the queen of his heart has finally returned. The next day, he follows Mina all the way to the marketplace, deliberately creating a romantic encounter, but Mina's eyes reveal only shock and confusion. At that moment, Ariza feels deeply the strangeness brought by time. The sight of the girl turning away tells him that their past vows were merely the innocence of youth. Ariza bears an indescribable sorrow. In the end, at the moment he is coldly driven away by Mina's father, Ariza loses his true love forever. You are the mark branded into my heart, and also the dream I can never forget. Please forgive me. I can only seek comfort in my mother's embrace, for I have been defeated by the merciless passage of time and drowned by the cruelty of the years. The scene shifts again, back to childhood. When a cholera outbreak leaves Mina gravely ill, her father urgently summons a doctor for his daughter, and the moment he appears, he displays an extraordinary presence, with features as finely drawn as a painting and a calm, confident expression. With just that single look, Mina is deeply captivated by him, and during the first examination, the doctor, in front of everyone, touches Mina's chest without hesitation. From that point on, through Mina's father's careful arrangements, the girl ultimately marries this highly respected doctor, fulfilling her destined path. While everyone else celebrates this perfectly matched marriage, Ariza can only retreat to a corner and silently lick his wounds. Just a few days later, Mina boards a honeymoon ship with the doctor, immersing herself in the joy of newlywed life within the warm cabin. In the blink of an eye, a year passes, and under the watchful eyes of noble merchants, Mina and the doctor welcome the birth of a new life. At this moment, Ariza finally abandons all unrealistic hopes and no longer restrains himself. Beginning a lifetime of self-indulgence, he fills the emptiness in his heart with one fleeting encounter after another. At that time, his diary is densely packed with records of every unfamiliar woman with whom he has shared a story. Each brief moment of pleasure feels like a form of escape from the pain buried deep within him. Seeing her son sink lower and lower, his mother is overwhelmed with guilt, so she begs her brother to find Ariza a job writing letters for others, hoping it will keep him away from vanity and temptation. But unexpectedly, this work makes Ariza extremely popular among middle-aged women, and soon the names in his diary surpass 3 digits. Meanwhile, Mina and the doctor welcome their third child as the years quietly pass. Time flows on, and before he realizes it, Ariza is already in his early 40s. By chance, he attends a poetry competition hosted by Mina and her husband. When the doctor holds Mina's hand, still radiant and dignified, a tidal wave of loss crashes into Ariza's heart. At that very moment, an unfamiliar woman approaches him. She seems intrigued by his melancholic aura. Before the event even ends, the two leave together. In the woman's home, Ariza records his 500th story. Soon after, Ariza encounters the girl he once deeply hurt. She once had a happy family, but in a moment of impulse, the two left marks on each other. Unfortunately, when the girl returns home, she forgets to erase the mark on her body. This awkward scene is discovered by her husband, ultimately leading to a tragedy. The incident plunges Ariza into deep anguish that he cannot let go of for a long time. At the same time, his dearest mother suddenly passes away, pushing him into endless grief and making him firmly believe this is punishment from above. The scene shifts, and Mina and her husband are still as loving as ever. He cooks delicious eggplant dishes for her and tells jokes that she adores. Yet even such a seemingly perfect partner hides a restless heart. One morning, while sorting laundry, Mina accidentally notices an unfamiliar perfume scent on her husband's shirt. That evening, faced with his calm demeanor, she can no longer hold back and begins to question him. But Mina does not lose control like other women. She endures the pain and only wants to know who the woman is. After a brief hesitation, her husband admits it openly and tells her that the woman was once his patient. At this moment, Mina's body trembles uncontrollably, yet she struggles to suppress her tears. She wishes so badly that her husband would deny it or lie like other men, but he does not. He hides nothing, like someone who has committed a grave mistake. He confesses sincerely and promises Mina that he will cut it off completely, and the wife, filled with pain, can only choose to believe his words. The next day, Mina follows her husband to the place where the woman lives. She is a black woman, not particularly attractive, but from the reluctant look on her husband's face as he leaves, Mina clearly realizes that the man who once adored her no longer exists. Therefore, for the first time since their marriage, the two erupt into a fierce argument.
I think I am going to die.
That would be best. Then we could both have some peace.
In a surge of anger, Mina returns to her hometown in South Africa and embraces her long-separated cousin in tears. Ariza once again loses all news of the woman he loves. To fill the emptiness left by Mina's departure, the aging Ariza tries to find other women to replace her place in his heart. Yet the tragedy is that some people in life can never be replaced. That very year, Ariza's uncle passes away, and as the uncle's sole heir, he inherits the most prominent shipping business in the region. One day, during casual conversation, a friend asks how many women are recorded in his diary, and Ariza calmly answers that it is more than 600. The friend is instantly stunned by this astonishing number, but to be precise, it has already reached 662. Perhaps he does not realize that the emotional space within Ariza's heart is more crowded than any pleasure house. Another year passes in the blink of an eye, and on the 406th day after Mina's disappearance, Ariza spends time alone in a movie theater. Yet with an accidental turn of his head, he sees the figure he has longed for day and night. Thanks to fate, Mina has finally returned. It turns out that on the third day after Mina returned to South Africa, her husband relentlessly followed her there, and the two naturally resolved their differences. When Ariza sees Mina again, he can only remove his hat and offer a restrained smile. Even if the woman has forgotten what he once looked like, simply being able to see the one he loves is enough to satisfy him. But some accidents always arrive without warning. On a warm afternoon, Mina's elderly husband falls from a ladder while trying to rescue a parrot from a tree. As he lies in Mina's arms, he tells her through tears that in this world, no one loves you more than I do. On the day the doctor passes away, the entire town gathers to see him off, and the mournful toll of the funeral bell reaches Ariza's ears. He walks into Mina's home leaning on a cane, now in his 70s. Standing in the sunlit living room, his voice trembles with emotion. I have waited for you for 51 years, 9 months, and 4 days. From the very first moment I saw you in my youth, I have loved you continuously until now. Hearing this sincere confession, Mina is moved to tears. She even curses him through sobs, saying he deserves divine punishment, and angrily orders him to leave the room. Though Ariza crashes forcefully back into her world and endures grievance and humiliation, he still refuses to give up. Gradually, he goes from watching her from afar to openly sitting with Mina and talking together in the courtyard. But when Mina's children learn of this, they strongly oppose their relationship. The beautiful love once hoped for is cheaply reduced to something disgusting in her daughter's words. This time, however, Mina firmly resists.
The only thing that hurts me is that I don't have enough strength to give you the beating that you deserve for being so insolent and evil-minded. But you will leave this house right now, and I swear to you on my mother's grave that you will not set foot in it again as long as I live. Life crippled that poor man 50 years ago because he was too young, and now you want to do it because we are too old.
And Ariza ends his relationship with the 632nd woman, declaring with resolve that he is going to get married. Finally, half a year after Mina's husband passes away, the two return to where their hearts first began. After a full 50 years, the two of them, now thin and weathered, walk arm in arm with undiminished vitality. They head straight toward the park bench, where the marks of love carved 50 years ago have long been eroded beyond recognition by time. Yet fortunately, as evening lamps glow and the breeze gently sways, people come to rest, grateful for the mercy of time. They are still alive in this world. In the end, Ariza comes to the seaside and asks the captain if there is a way for the ship to never dock, while also forbidding any other passengers from boarding. The captain pauses for a moment and tells the owner that as long as the cholera flag is raised, everyone will keep their distance. Shadows stretch across shallow waters, and a faint fragrance drifts beneath the yellowing moon at dusk. At this moment, the story of love in the time of cholera also comes to its end. Ariza's half-century of waiting alone is enough to move anyone, yet all those passing days and nights seem to carry a faint sigh rising from the depths of the heart. Getting drunk or indulging, pulling oneself together or working to exhaustion, all of it nothing more than a self-directed performance meant to prove one's own grand sacrifice for love and the other person's emotional coldness. Even if the lover is no longer who they once were, The idealized version of love grows ever more perfect under the carving of time, and the self, too, gains immense vanity from so-called sacrifice for love. Please do not do this. When love is gone, it is gone. Do not wait. Do not waste your life. And do not be misled by novelists into believing that suffering will surely turn sweet after hardship. Using one's own suffering to create a so-called miracle of love may never have been love at all, but simply desire.